Ladies and gentlemen, it's another week of the United States High School Champions League starting 11 or thereabouts, and it's leading the way with Dave Aronberg from Ladue High School. Go Rams!
Good morning, Wales.
Top
How
of
are you?
Yeah, well, I'm subject
That
to...
might have been the cleanest opening that I've ever heard you do so far.
I mean to tell you, fumbling, stumbling. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
No, that you hit that one.
Yeah. We can't. If I could edit it, I would. Pre-record it. But yeah, there it is. So and it's kind of like what we're involved in. Every day is a day to inspire or to manage. Yeah. And it's going to be where you're about later on, before the sun goes down, you're going to have your first day of tryouts.
That's right. Day one.
Wow. Okay, but we got business to take care of, and there's no finer. You've been studying, and you have 5 points that you're going to blow our socks off.
Well, I mean, let's not set the bar too high here, but I'm gonna. I do have some points that we're gonna try to make. I'm gonna give a plug for Select. Actually, I know that usually you do this, Wales, but yesterday to prepare for tryouts, I was in my soccer locker, blowing up soccer balls, and let me tell you, bunch of Nike balls, all flat. Had to blow them all up. Select balls, barely had to touch. Those things keep their air. It's amazing. So
they're engineered that way, Dave. I'd been doing a little investigation about these guys and gals, and the company was started by a goalkeeper. So
then it must be good then.
There you go. Enough said. And
no, but I mean, I think if you talk to any coach, what's the number one thing you really want from a ball? You want them to keep their air, and man, those Select balls, they do a great job at that. So
yeah, and they keep their flight without wiggling around and going crazy and stuff.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, and for us goalkeepers, you could look at it and able to dive out and get your hands behind it, and when you're trying to kick it, and settle it, it means a lot. You get a fumbling, stumbling ball, and it's man.
Yeah. So there's our shout out to Select. Well, I'm ready if you are.
Just P.S. If I was going to high school, if I was in high school, and I want to go to college, I would get both. You could afford it to get Nagele College Planning and the Qoollege.
Qoollege. Yeah.
Yeah. QOLLEGGE.com, and you use our names and you get discounts. And the story goes is that helps you with the pathway. You don't have the time and this and well, they do the whole nation, man, and Canada. So yeah, so good luck. All right, here we go. You're
all right,
on.
well, I spent some time last week talking about the club game. This week I'm going to talk about how can we fix our backyard. What can we do here in the high school game to really improve our product so that we still have kids that are choosing to play high school. And I think that's a really big part. It's one thing to kind of grouse and gripe about what's happening on the club side, but it's another thing to make sure that the high school side is healthy, so that kids want to be playing high school. And I'm going to kind of reference this a couple times, but I've been saying this for years and might sound a little bit dramatic. I think there literally is a war on high school sports right now. And if we are not vigilant and if we aren't making intentional steps to fight back, there's a chance that we lose high school sports as we know it. So that's kind of where I'm kind of starting with this whole premise. All right. So the number one thing is when you look at the high school game, what are the strengths of the high school game? And when I kind of sat down and thought about this, there was a few things that came to my mind. Number one, the emphasis on side over self, where the team is what really matters. If you look at the club side, and I think, clubs would pretty blatantly tell you this too, it is very individual, which there's some benefits to having individual development for sure. But there's a lot of clubs that would say, really, results don't matter. This is not really so much about the team. It's about what you're doing individually. Well, that's not the case in high school. High school, it's the team that matters. The results matter. At the end of the day, are you winning state? Like that's the stuff that is really important in the high school game. Rivalries matter. I know that on the club side, they even openly talk about how there's not just great rivalries anymore. That matters in high school. So no matter where you are, whatever your rival high school is, some high schools have multiple rivals. Those things really matter. The legacy matters. If you're part of a state championship team, that never goes away. Guys will come back 30 years later and talk about the state championships that they won 30 years ago. Those are things that live on the high school side. Individual legacies also. Who's the leading goal scorer? Who's the goalie with the most shutouts in your school's history? That stuff lives, and that lives way more in a high school setting than in a club setting. Publicity would be another thing I would say is a high school strength. Post-Dispatch has always done a great job of really shining a light on high school sports. When I was playing Wales, and maybe when you were playing, we used to have the Suburban Journal. That was a huge thing. If you scored a goal, you got your name in the paper. That was kind of the cool thing to happen. And while the Post-Dispatch has maybe scaled back their publications a little bit, it's still a tremendous asset to what we do in the high school game. And then the last thing I really thought about for the high school versus the club, people really care. And this kind of ties back to the side over self, but you have alumni that come back and watch. You have a community that cares about your team. You've got, you're playing in front of classmates that care about the results. It's a way different environment than when you're talking about club. All right. So are there any that you want to add to that, Wales? That was when I was just trying to think of the strengths of high school. That's kind of what I came up with. I'm sure there's more.
Oh, it's without a doubt. And if you don't, this is my opinion. If a player, parents, coaches, if they don't think that they got the cart before the horse. I remember club when it first started, select, totally, the best of the best. And the story was, hey man, take it, tone it down. Don't be doing all that roughhousing. And you played high school, same guys, you played against them, and they're slide tackling, they're going up for head balls, and they're moving, man, shooting hard. They had some passion. And I said, oh, man, am I goofy, And once I got the passion for the high school game, I was better all around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to replicate that, and I think clubs have realized that part too. And I mean, I've listened to lots of podcasts of college coaches and even high level club coaches that say, one thing that they're missing in their game is the competitive nature. I mean, it's hard to manufacture that when you don't have those built-in rivalries that the high school game produces. Okay, so with those things in mind for what the high school side of the game brings, my thing is we need to find ways to supercharge our strengths. I mean, we can sit here and complain and, whatever about, clubs are doing this and that, but really we should be focusing our energy on what can we do to make what already are high school strengths even better. And there's a few things that I think need to happen to make sure that we can supercharge the high school game. Number one, as you just talked about, we know that the competition's great in high school. You need to lean into those competitive games. All right, there needs to be more high-level tournaments, more high-level games where competition really matters. All right, your conference should matter. The playoffs should matter. All of those things need to happen to really lean into the competitiveness. We should be making it easier to get publicity for the players. And this is something that I complain to a lot of high school coaches about. We have the Post-Dispatch in St. Louis, which is great. All right. Put your rosters in so that people can see who's on your team. Put your schedule in so people can see when the games are. Like, those are easy things, easy wins for a high school coach to do. I run the best 11 here in St. Louis. Nominate players for the best 11 to put their name in the spotlight. Again, easy thing that you can do to get your kids publicity. At this point in 2026, if you don't have an active Instagram page, you are behind. Like, you need to have or recruit someone that can get an Instagram page so that, again, kids are living in social media. Like, they should be able to see themselves on these things. So engage in the publicity. That's a major selling point for the high school game. When you look at those couple ways that we can supercharge the high school game, I think the Champions League is doing all of this. All right, so when you look at the Champions League, lots of social media coverage, great publicity. I mean, typically most Champions League games here in St. Louis are very well covered by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. You've got, articles, pictures written about them. Champions League has a really good Instagram and Twitter following, a really nice website. So there's a lot of things that, publicity-wise they're doing. And obviously those games are adding to the competitive nature. Whereas before Champions League, maybe the only thing you cared about was winning state. This is adding another feather in the cap. So it's enhancing the competitive environment of the high school game. But my thing is, it's not enough on itself. All right. At the end of the day, in St. Louis, the Champions League only reaches 16 teams. All right. I think in the St. Louis area, we've got, 40 to 50 highly competitive teams in the St. Louis area. So there needs to be other things that are done beyond the Champions League to continue to lean into all this competitive nature that we're talking about. I think other things that need to be added, our playoffs have to be reimagined. I think a lot of times there are too many seasons that end before they start. When districts come out before the season starts, there are many teams that look at the district and they say, well, our season's over. And it shouldn't be that way. We should not have a situation where playoffs are determined before a game is even played. That makes zero sense. Zero. I don't understand why we're just resigned to this system that we have. So you have these districts of death where 3 of the top 5 state teams are in the same district. That makes no sense. You have districts where you've got a school that might be winless is playing an undefeated team in a really wrongly classified situation. It makes no sense. So while the Champions League does a really good job and our playoff system, they both reward the best teams, it's not looking at the total picture still. All right. And we can do things to make the playoffs competitive for all levels, not just looking at who's going to win the final game at the end of the day. And those things matter, because if we really want to bump up the high school game, we need to make it competitive for everyone. And I think, kind of going off that, what if your classification was determined by your current team's regular season success? I think right now our playoff system is such that the regular season really doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're in a district with 7 other teams right now, I mean, maybe it matters a little bit for seeding, but at the end of the day, like, it really doesn't matter. So there are, and I have some ideas about this. That'd probably be a whole nother episode, but there are ways that we can change the playoff system that would really supercharge the competitiveness for all teams, and it's not just for soccer. It could be for all high school sports, because like I said at the beginning, if we're doing nothing right now, if there's some apathy in the high school game, it's going to, like, high school sports are in jeopardy, and I'm very serious about that. I was talking to some ADs actually a couple weeks ago, and they were very flat out, like, with the way that the clubs are going in all sports, not just soccer, there's going to be kind of a tipping point where high school just becomes not even a competitive rec environment. And I don't think that's something that any of us really want to see happen. All right, we have enough good players in all these sports where high school should be competitive still. And if we do nothing right now, there's a chance that we lose that. So those are kind of my points, Wales. I said a lot and probably too much for today, but that's what I got for today.
Under full disclosure, in 2012, at the Herman Award, dinner down at the MAC, the coach that had won previously told everybody college soccer is going away. That, the clubs and the everybody, the professional clubs, they just forget about it.
I agree with that, Will. So actually, here's kind of my thesis, and you've got a national listening audience, so I don't know how other metro areas are, but if you look at St. Louis, I equate, like, CYC was the first domino to fall. So the clubs, they killed CYC. And obviously, CYC is still a thing, but if you look at the competitive nature of CYC, that's not there anymore. Wales, when you were growing up, CYC was very competitive, yes? Like,
yeah, it was just at the tail end, it went down, yeah.
So, clubs killed that first. High school was the next domino, and it's, clubs are currently trying to kill off high school. College is the next domino, because if you really look at what happens here, there's going to be, like, the pathway that we've already talked about is drying up to college. Well, so what's the next logical step for a club? They're going to say, well, we don't need college to be the end. We're just going to extend our club to, U23, U26, whatever that case is.
Yeah, start a new league, man.
Right. Just, you don't need to go to college. That's not the path anymore. You'll just continue in whatever club you're in. So, like, that's the next domino. And I see this. And so, to me, college coaches really should be allies of the high school, because if they're really looking down the road, that's what's coming. And I get very irritated when college coaches kind of pass over the high school game, because I'm like, you guys are next. it's just going down the line. You guys will be next.
Yeah. And that's history. That's human history. That's how it happens. The story comes out is that here you go, United States Soccer Federation, they say forget about high school, and so therefore everybody feels pressure. They make the rules, they set the rules, and they don't even want you to play rondos. I mean, so from the top and through the bottom, it's corrupt, and it's just filthy with unimaginative type of way. And they don't produce nothing.
Right.
And they go around like they're cock on the walk or something.
Well, and this brings me back to, and shoot, we could spend a long time complaining about
5 minutes. We got 5 minutes.
But my thing would be, again, so what can we do? We can make our game better so that people can't ignore it. I mean, that's honestly, at the end of the day, like, we can't control what clubs are going to do. We can't control what the USSF is going to do. But we can make it where high school is undeniably an amazing product that people can't ignore. And that's kind of my point. So if you make the high school environment this really awesome, cool, competitive place that we know it can be, and we know it has been in the past, and we have ideas like the Champions League to make it even better, then people can't ignore it anymore. And I think that's really what I'm excited about with the Champions League is it's created another layer of the high school sports where, like, it's getting more eyeballs to the game, and it's getting it to where people can't ignore the game. And it starts maybe, having maybe some kids saying, I want to be a part of that. I don't want to miss out on all of the cool things that the high school game brings. Because we all know all the cool things the high school game brings. But for so long, Wales, I mean, I didn't get very vocal on this subject until maybe 3 years ago. And I've been coaching 20 plus years. And there was a little complacency on the high school side. We didn't really have to bump ourselves up and say, hey, look at how good the high school game is. Because people just assumed you're going to play high school. Well, that's not the reality. And so we need to collectively, as coaches, we need to be better, and we need to make sure people understand how cool the high school game is and how competitive the high school game can be, so that they're making those decisions.
You're spot on. I got goosebumps already, man. The thing is, you could get a hold of Whale Certified, and I interview the coaches, the players, the parents. It's a whole 9 yards. And the Champions League, powered by Qoollege.com, has the website USHSCL.com, where all the 20 teams that are in the league throughout the United States, they have their little spot, little home, and all the news that is happening, and they're reaching out to each team has a reporter that he or she would make it all happen, with the pizzazz of promotion. And then it comes out to where we talked about the league. I'm reaching out to all the all the doers out there that say, hey, man, let's start, we got the Champions League, let's start a lower league that you don't qualify for the Champions League, like a Europa League or something.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm all in. I'll do some grunt work for you for sure. And that whole story about what you're doing with the best 11 weekly. And I talked to players that were on that team. And it's, man, that inner pride in the team. Yeah, man, you were the best of the whole week, and to maintain that. It gets everybody about it. I get goosebumps thinking about the starting 11. I like it.
Well, and so, Wales, here's what I'll say about that, too. Like, those are easy wins for the high school game. And so, again, to my fellow coaches, all you have to do is take a minute of your time and nominate players. Like, it is such an easy win, because the high school game does automatically get more publicity, and people do care more about the high school game. So you have to lean into what our strengths are to make it undeniable how awesome the high school experience is. Take the easy wins.
Right on. Well, this is your last minute. Say what you need to say, man, and we'll think about it next week or so. But you're coming down to the time. Is there?
Yeah, this was a long one. I apologize, Wales.
No, this is great.
I just think really one of the next things that needs to happen, because I think the Champions League is going, and we're doing what we can do there, but at a certain point we're going to have to get Misha on board. The state associations are going to have to see the writing on the wall where change occurs, so that we can, for the betterment of the entire game, make sure that we're in a healthy place. Because again, if we do nothing, we've seen how this works. We see what happens. All right, we can't just have it think that it's a given that the high school game just survives as is if we do nothing.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Food for thought. Bring it around, talk about it, get some different viewpoints on the situation. And I want you to know that I know that you know, Dave, if you have a solution, you don't have a problem. And yeah. So here we go, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've been listening to is Coach Dave Aronberg from the Ladue High School Rams on the United States High School Champions League starting 11 or thereabouts with Dave Aronberg and Kevin Whalen, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, how was that? Was that a double?
You did great. Hey, and a quick shout out to all the coaches starting preseason today. So good luck to everyone. We're about to have a fun 3-4 months here, the high school season.
Right on, Dave. All right. Good luck, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.